right tackle. And I'm not saying O'Neal Cousins isn't a starting caliber player. Maybe down the road he still has potential, but he's not there right now. And I think Lamar Woodley proved that in Week 16. So if you trade Jared Gaither, you get good value. I'm sure you'll get a second-round pick in next year's draft. And being that he will most likely be out the door next year, he's an unrestricted free agent after this season, I guess you have to look at getting the value. But at the same time, if you're a team looking to win now, and I think it's fair to say the Ravens are a legitimate Super Bowl contender right now,
right,
do you really downgrade that much? And I think it is a significant downgrade on the offensive line, which is one of the most important pieces to winning the Super Bowl, in order just to get value for next year. Is it worth it?
No, it's really not, man. You could see that actually with us as well, with the Eagles. We lost Jackson right before the playoffs, I think it was, and, we struggled at the center position, lost a couple snaps, and that was felt as well. So, the offensive line is a very key component in even getting the pass downfield or running the ball. So
they control everything offensively.
Right,
Jared Gaither has just as much to do with Joe Flacco's success as any of the receivers do.
Right, exactly. So, if you lose your offensive line, then you pretty much you can't pass downfield because the defensive line is on your quarterback, or you can't run the ball because you don't have guys blocking. So,
O'Neal Cousins, I think, is a solid run blocker. He's I'd say a liability a little bit, against defending against guys like Lamar Woodley, at least at this point in his career.
Yeah, his problems, his deficiencies were clearly showed in that in the Pittsburgh game this season, where it was just, and the Ravens have to play Pittsburgh twice a year, and there's other teams that are getting pass rushers. It's going to be tough. There's going to be a huge liability if O'Neal Cousins is out there instead of Jared Gaither.
Yeah, and I think Ravens fans have gotten used to this, at least at this point, liabilities at the right tackle position. And I'm not comparing O'Neal Cousins to Ethan Brooks by any means, but when you look at the left side, it was cemented for all those years with Jonathan Ogden. Then you look at the right side, it was an area of concern. Tony Pashas, Ethan Brooks, Orlando Brown, solid run blockers. But they couldn't stop the pass rushers coming off the edge, and that, proved very costly, especially facing teams like Pittsburgh, not only in the regular season, but you think to the playoffs as well.
That's right. Well, it really comes down to, this year, do you think you can win the Super Bowl or not? If you think you can win the Super Bowl, do you really want to hurt your team? Long term, sure, it'd be a great deal to get a second-round pick, probably a high second-round pick for Jared Gaither.
Especially if it's coming from Buffalo.
Exactly.
Buffalo might not win a game this year. But
yeah, so it comes down to, do you think you can win now? Is it worth the risk? And I don't know if it is.
Is it worth the risk? Because in my mind, it isn't.
No, it's not.
It's your replacement. Can you sign a veteran right tackle? If you can sign a veteran right tackle,
Flozell Adams is out there. I think that would be an option, at least if they did trade Jared Gaither. But you have to look at it from both sides. I understand the concerns from the Ravens standpoint. They're not going to lock him up long term. Jared Gaither, regardless of whether he plays left side or right side for the Ravens, he wants left side money. He proved he can be a left tackle in the NFL. So the Ravens aren't going to pay two left tackles. They view Michael Orr as their left tackle of the future. Jared Gaither, they have questions about his work ethic. But at the same time, regardless of that work ethic, Jared Gaither is still one heck of a football player. He's among the top tackles in the league, still very young. And like I said, it's a significant downgrade if you get rid of him. It's just not worth it because the Ravens are right on the brink of the Super Bowl. If you don't watch ESPN, you hear them talk about the Ravens all the time with the acquisitions of Anquan Bolden, even Dante Stallworth. There are very few deficiencies on this team, and if they lose Jared Gaither, that will be a new one. And that will bump them down, at least in my mind, below a team like Cincinnati, who, of course, won the division last year, and then through the draft upgraded even more. Cincinnati hasn't really been talked about, but Cincinnati did as much in the draft to help their team this year as any team in the league.
Well, really, just to play a little devil's advocate here, though, having the Ravens built their team by making moves like this, going against the grain, where some people would think this is a little, some people may view it as short-sighted, but this would be a long-term deal, a long-term move, looking for the best of the franchise, so the Ravens are always able to compete, not just this season for a Super Bowl, but every single year they're a playoff team or in playoff contention. That's the argument for pulling this trade and getting rid of Jared Gaither, because long-term, it's tough to argue against this, because it doesn't look like Jared Gaither is going to be signed past this year. They're not going to franchise him. They're not going to pay him. That would be a huge
surprise.
Well, looking at the Ravens last year, I felt as though, their receiving core kind of lacked. and I felt they did a great job actually bringing in Anquan Bolden and Stallworth.
Especially for what they had to give up to get him. They only give up a third and a fourth and then to get a fifth back.
Right, and, so there'll be a more explosive offense now. That takes some of the load off of Ray Rice's back. Because he was carrying the whole offense pretty much last year. So I think they did a great job in the offseason. And, if their offensive line can hold up, then that'd be an explosive contender as well.
And then before we get back to the phone lines, the cornerback position has to be something that you look at and have to be concerned about, especially since Lardarius Webb, I've torn my ACL before. I know how tough it is to come back from the ACL, and I would really be surprised if he's able to play at all this year, not only in Week 6 or whatever it's been talked about. I'd be surprised if he's able to contribute at all this season. I mean, considering he tore his ACL, I think it was the second to last game of the season. Fabian Washington, I think, will be ready closer to Week 6.
Right.
But the cornerback position, when you look at it, Foxworth and Chris Carr, doesn't exactly leave you very comfortable, but I think a guy to keep an eye on is Kerry Williams. And, Nick, you saw him last week when you were out at minicamp with me. Kerry Williams is somebody who's been primarily a special teams player. He was only a seventh-round pick of the Titans a few years ago, but he's somebody with a lot of potential. He's already grown since the time he was in Tennessee. He was a D2 player just like you, Joel,
right.
At, I think it was Washburn. But he showed that potential when he was there. I think he had 11 career interceptions, something like that, 7 his senior year. And the number that really stuck out to me, and I know this doesn't have any influence at all on the cornerback position, he averaged 41 yards a kick return his senior year.
Yeah, multi-talented.
Yeah, right. Don't forget, the Ravens are looking for a kick returner, so I don't think there's any doubt that he makes the team
I'm
at this
there
point.
with you.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised either if he not only established himself as a nickel or a dime, but maybe, since Chris Carr I don't really view as a long-term answer on the outside, if Fabian isn't ready by Week 6, if Kerry Williams all of a sudden moved into a starting role by the middle point of the season. And that's all contingent on Fabian and if he's ready at that point. But only time will tell. Let's go right back out to the phone lines, though, joined by Russell in Ellicott City. Russell, you're on with Matt, Nick, and Joel. How you doing?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Matt, I agree with you on the not having a big concern with the secondary. I think Ozzie Newsome's proven that he's able to find some talent like a Kerry Williams or a few years ago a DeJuan Landry late in the draft or on the free agent wire. In the secondary where maybe other guys aren't looking at it. So I tend to agree with you that the offensive line and the right tackle position is going to be an issue in the future, especially if we do go ahead and trade Jared Gaither. On the one hand, I think that's kind of the thing that the New England Patriots have done over the years is trade guys maybe while they still have a few good years left in them or before they get to free agency, but they're getting good value, and that's why they always have a ton of draft picks and can rebuild and maintain, sort of a dynasty status.
Yeah, the thing with New England, though, that at least sticks out to me, when they trade those guys, when they trade the Richard Seymours of the world, they have players waiting in the wings that are ready to replace them. And when you look at O'Neal Cousins, I know he has a little bit of experience. He's shown flashes. He's a decent run blocker, but he doesn't really leave you comfortable. He hasn't really shown at this point that he's the heir apparent and that he's ready to help contribute to that Ravens offensive line and help keep it at anywhere near the level that Jared Gaither and Michael Orr have helped get it to as the two bookends.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think, for maybe 10 games out of the season, playing O'Neal Cousins at right tackle isn't going to make any difference because we're just that much better than a lot of the teams that we're going to be playing. But when you start looking at Pittsburgh and the teams that are at the top of the AFC, whether it be the Jets with their rushers coming off the edge or the fast defensive ends of the Colts, or if New England reloads, that's a lot of pressure on O'Neal Cousins to defend fast rushers off the edge, and
big time.
Nothing in his career has ever indicated an ability to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask of Jared Gaither and Michael Orr to stop the guys from the Colts and the Steelers. So when you look at O'Neal Cousins, it doesn't exactly leave you comfortable. And I think if they trade Gaither, that position, addressing that through free agency, becomes even more paramount than bringing in a corner.
Yeah, I would think so, because, we can use O'Neal Cousins and maybe make the playoffs, but if we've got O'Neal Cousins at right tackle, I don't see how we're winning the Super Bowl and beating these good defenses in the playoffs.
So that's the difference to you? If they keep Gaither, they're a Super Bowl team. If they get rid of him, they're not?
Yeah, I think trading Gaither might be better for the long term, but you're really taking a hit this year unless there's somebody out there, like a Flozell Adams or whoever the tackles out there are in the scrap heap, or like a Willie Anderson from a couple years ago, where you can plug him in and get something better than Jared Gaither, because you don't need left tackle talent on the right side,
Yep.
but you need somebody better than O'Neal Cousins to make a serious Super Bowl push.
Well, hopefully O'Neal isn't listening right now, Russell. But we appreciate the call, sir, and good insight.
Thanks,
a
Russell.
lot, guys.
Hey, we have to take a short break. We'll get more into the Ravens after the break. We'll also be joined by Mike Devereaux, former